So, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Not gonna lie, it's a lot sunnier than I thought it would have been, considering the torrential downpour that hit this morning. As soon as I heard the rain, I said, here come the messages. Are you canceling school?" But the weather said, "Nah," and sun is out, guns out. All the usual stuff. So, welcome back to MECYS Matters for today, May 26th, 2026. Cannot believe that the month of May is already pretty much over. We have coffee in the house, of course, as per usual. And the hot take today has to do with the fact that, it's almost June. So NOAA, which is I can't remember what it stands for, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They basically said, oh, the Atlantic hurricane season is going to be below average this year. Um, let's not listen to that. I urge everybody to ignore that and prepare as if they said the season is going to be above average in terms of activity. And of course, the season I'm talking about is hurricane season. So, we have a tendency to get complacent as season after season goes by with no storm touching our shores. But that's part of how we were so unprepared and underprepared for Irma in 2017. So you should already be checking your non-perishable food supply, your flashlights, your battery supplies, watertight storage for important documents, status of your roof, etc. Because hurricane season officially starts the 1st of June, 2026. So definitely keep an eye on all of that. Check your roof, the status of your roof, your windows, all that good stuff. Because once that season kicks off, every day we're gonna get the tropical outlook, not just from the National Hurricane Center, but also here on MECYS Matters. Because that becomes my normal routine as soon as June 1st hits, check in the National Hurricane Center for any activity. Um, Today's word of the day. Word of the day, of course, is brought to you by Merriam-Webster Dictionary. You should have been here long enough by now to know how it goes with the word of the day. Let's get into it. And today's word of the day is actually like two words. Gordian knot. I thought that was. It's not a term you always hear, but it is. It is a term that exists. Gordian knot refers to a complicated and difficult problem. It is often used in the phrase cut the Gordian knot, which means to solve a difficult problem in a very direct way by doing something forceful or extreme. Its official definition actually is an intricate problem, especially a problem insoluble in its own terms. And the second definition relates to its more historical context, which is a knot tied by Gordius, king of Phrygia, held to be capable of being untied only by the future ruler of Asia, and allegedly, cut by Alexander the Great with his sword. If you use it in a sentence, you can see the organization's change in leadership is being widely applauded as a step towards stability, but many are less than optimistic about the new director's ability to cut the Gordian knot at the center of its troubles. So, according to legend, as I mentioned, when the peasant Gordius became king of Gordium, capital of the ancient district of Phrygia in what is now modern Turkey, he fastened the yoke of his wagon to a beam with a very complex knot. Centuries later, when Alexander the Great arrived on the scene, he was told that he couldn't conquer and rule Asia unless he proved himself worthy by untying the knot. Alexander quickly solved the problem and gained a new kingdom by slicing the knot in half with his sword. He said, I ain't got time for all of that. Since then, Gordian knot has been a term for a difficult problem, and the phrase cut the Gordian knot has been a way to describe a direct and forceful solution to an apparently insurmountable difficulty. And if that ain't St. Martin right now, with many of the challenges we face. And sometimes that takes a direct and forceful solution. And we'll get into that a little later. Game of the month. So I have a bit of a conundrum. Tomorrow is release day for 007 First Light, an origin game story about how James Bond became, James Bond, and how he got the 007 designation. Between that and Subnautica 2, both are probably going to be in rotation as the games I'll be playing for the foreseeable future. So hoping to get my hands on 007 First Light tomorrow and, take a look at it over the coming weekend. Also, I've spoken about streaming some of the games of the month via my Twitch channel, which, yes, I have one. Also, it's not very active right now, of course, but I'm thinking to do a contest for the channel graphics. in our schools for some of our more artistically inclined students. Like, your student draws something, and I'll work with a graphic designer to make it a reality and rotate out designs on my Twitch channel, with a prize for the winners, of course. So I'm going to work to flesh out that plan a bit more. But if it's something that you guys think would be cool, feel free to let me know in the comments. And that's something that I'll contemplate getting done. As we go into main topics and updates, as you know, the short story contest has been launched, the second annual Dame Ruby Butte National Short Story Contest. Of course, designed to promote literacy, creative expression, and cultural appreciation among our young people. Open to students aged 12 to 14. Participants are invited to submit stories between 750 and 3,000 words. We're accepting submissions August 1st to August 21st. Winners are going to be announced in recognition of International Literacy Day on September 8th. The theme for this year, of course, is Beats, Bites, and Bacchanal. So students are going to be challenged to imagine what Carnival is going to look like in the year 2050, see how AI and emerging technologies can shape the future of our most celebrated cultural tradition. Um, Definitely encouraging all those who choose to participate to creatively examine how innovation and cultural heritage can coexist. This is something we've talked about on the live stream, we've talked about in Parliament. Um, you know, you have to blend modern technology with our culture to ensure that our spirit and our identity and the energy of Carnival, continue to persist in this very rapidly evolving world. Um, with regards to some trust fund updates, if you live in or have driven through the mid-region area recently, you'll see construction is booming on the System Marie Laurence school site. Very happy to see the daily progress of that project. Looking forward to seeing it continue. And I hope this week or next to have some further updates on the library project and, of course, the other projects within FRLP and ERP1 that are related to this ministry. In terms of Parliament, tomorrow we're finally back for the EGMA results meeting continuation. So that is the early grade reading and early grade mathematics assessment. We started this meeting. It's a committee ECYS meeting. I want to say we started this meeting in February. Yeah, I believe we started this meeting back in February. So I'm going now to answer. I think we tried to reconvene it. We didn't have quorum, something along those lines. So we're gonna now head back to answer questions that we received in the first instance of the meeting, and then see if there are any other questions from the members of Parliament. If not, then we can wrap up that meeting tomorrow. And that is it for Parliament. As you know, we already wrapped up the meeting on the sports levy. The follow-up to that is probably going to be done in writing, because there were some questions that we needed to get back to Parliament on in writing. And so that I'll also share with the public once we provide it to the members of Parliament, of course. In terms of sports, I want to say congrats. I saw NSI's post about the Seventh-day Adventist, Asha Stevens Hillside Christian School, Sister Regina Primary, and Lynn O'Connor Primary School students on earning their A swimming diploma. Learning to swim is something I encourage everyone, whether child or adult, to do. And yes, mainly because we live on an island, and you should be able to take full advantage of that to the fullest degree, including enjoying our beaches and the amazing life that thrives under our waters. But secondary to that, many of the jobs in the maritime and marine industry, which is an industry I talk a lot about wanting to get more locals involved in, require you to be able to swim and in some instances dive. So it is beneficial to us to be able to participate in these industries and thus have the skills that we need to be able to work and live in these industries that are so critical to our own economic development. So to those kids who started off, floating and treading water, do y'all remember how, well, back in my day, when you had to tread water, you had to kind of be like with your two fingers in the air above water, kicking like a turtle under the water, like a duck rather. So you've gone from floating and treading water to now, actually swimming better than Nemo. Pat yourselves on the back, kids. Definitely looking forward to seeing you all on our beaches, in our water, enjoying everything that the sea has to offer. And following up, as well, as you'll have seen, NSI put out a post informing the public that the playground at Rao Illich Sports Complex will be temporarily closed, I think, until Thursday this week. They're going to be making some improvements to the playground infrastructure. And they also hinted at a new feature to be added soon, courtesy of a donation from MCB WIB Bank. Very happy to see private sector continue to get involved in these types of partnerships to boost and improve our sports infrastructure. That playground, we all grew up on that playground. With the seesaw in particular, there were some interesting times. And by times, I mean accidents. So it'll be great to see it get a breath of new life. So looking forward to seeing NSI unveil the improvements and then, of course, the new feature later on at the Rao Illich Sports Complex. In regards to youth, so I will be traveling to Statia with the Department of Youth on May 31st for some discussions with our colleagues on child's rights. So we'll hopefully be able to do a live view next week on that. And then if not, update live when I'm back. And then in last week's youth cabinet meeting, we had a great discussion about youth advocacy at the youth level. A lot of times and I've spoken about this before, and it's actually why the youth cabinet even exists. You have a lot of adults that talk about being advocates for young people and such, but you have to build that voice in them from young. That's why I tend to ask classes when I go to visit them, what what would you like to see happen, in parliament? What would you like to see happen in your country for young people? And they'll come with some outrageous stuff. For example, they're still trying to get me to pass a law to ban pineapple on pizza. But at the same time, they will also come with very valid suggestions on how we can improve their experience as young people, not just in their education system, but in general in the country and in society. Whether it's asking for places to be able to hang out, uh, you know, I think it's been said by some of them, every minute you turn, there's another bar, there's another lottery booth, but there's very rarely another, for example, coffee lounge. And shout out to Seema. She always makes her business very welcoming for young people to come do their homework, to hang out, kind of how we had the library as a space for us to be able to do that. And that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that the library itself is rebuilt, is restored as a community gathering space. But we need more of those little spots. So if you're thinking of opening a business, maybe not a bar, maybe something that can cater to young people. So yeah, and that is on youth. And in the world of culture and arts, so Flag Day. Few early points. Flag Day is June 13th. I was not speaking about St. Martin Day, which is November 11th, and which this year will have its official program organized and executed by our neighbors to the north, the Collectivité de Saint-Martin. So we're looking forward to the program that they have in store, the official program that they have in store for us over in French Quarter. And then some persons will say, asking me to open in times. Arnia Bookstore is probably open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., guys. I don't know. Someone tell them update their hours on Google so that people can know what times they have available to buy their flag. And then the official program for Flag Day has not been canceled. It has been scaled back. For those who don't know, Flag Day is not a public holiday. It is a national day of observance that has been observed for 41 years. Observing the day is usually done by rotating districts and having the schools in that district participate in a parade. The school children are often accompanied by dignitaries as well as trucks with DJs and/or artists. As Rama mentioned, some of you never seen King Bobo swimming from the truck to the children waving their flags. We then take the parade to a central location, usually one of the schools that are participating, where we then have speeches, performances, and such by dignitaries and the children. Then there's usually some snack boxes, some drinks, and then everyone disperses. And then the day is done. The official program is done. This year, we are replacing the parade with a school tour of some of the schools in the South Chilwat St. Peter's area, where we will meet with the students who have been steady practicing, their performances and such. And the usual speechifying will be done in a digital format to be broadcast on government radio. So not a cancellation, but a scaled back version of the day. Because as you can imagine, truck rental, DJ, band, food, etc., those things add up. And I think in a future live stream, I'll probably share the historic spend on not just Flag Day, but also all other days to give some context to what is has been happening thus far. So I also wanted to touch on the reactions to my press briefing statements last week. Firstly, thank you to everyone who sent me messages with their honest feedback, many thanking me for speaking truth to our reality, and to those who got the point of the message. What I saw from some of the minimal negative feedback is a continuation of something that I actually wrote about while in Parliament, and that is tone policing and respectability politics. When I, have said we tend to pretend that everything is okay, those two approaches and those two immediate outcries play directly into that. The way something is said matters more than what was said, and that has played a large part into how we got here, financially and overall as a country. I saw a person saying it was condescending. Same persons who defended another passionate message in 2020 about crackers and sardines, by the way. A message that I fully agreed with at the time, because sometimes firm language is the only way to get the message across. Um, and I've been very transparent about the financial difficulties facing the Ministry of ECYS, and to be quite blunt about it, I get the frustration on how public money has been and continues to be spent on things in areas that are not under my purview, and I encourage the public to keep asking questions about that. For this ministry, I can say the following: I, will begin to outline more in detail how the idea of find the money somehow has delivered us to this point. The point of scaling back national celebrations, the point of scaling back incidental subsidies, on the nice things that the ministry would like to do, and why. I think because saying no is something that we, and when I say we, I mean politicians, do not think is going to bring votes, when in reality, saying no sometimes is in the best interest of the country. Just like saying no to your kid sometimes is in the best interest of the household. Um, Assessments, review projects, filling vacancies, innovation in general, all of these things cost money, and all of these things have, at some point in our time as a country, found their budget shaved to accommodate a party, a big event, or another pet project that starts and then actually goes nowhere. So, saying no back then might have saved us from getting to this point now. And many of the things that persons ask me about in education and in culture and in sports, had someone said no to thing A, maybe we would be further along in thing B. And finally, and most importantly, as I said in my remarks as well, a budget says one thing and cash flow says another. Consider the statements earlier this year by the Ministry of Finance that only a small percentage of persons had paid road tax by end of January, mid-February. Consider our low compliance and collection rates on taxes and other fees owed to government, for example. This is what makes the difference between this is what the budget says and this is what we have on hand to actually spend. No one can ask you to spend what you don't have. Your kids can't ask you to spend what you don't have on frivolous things for the house. But it works much the same way for government. We cannot spend what we do not have. This is what has prompted my commitment as minister to prioritizing those long pending matters that have lagged behind due to shifting budgets and priorities. And more importantly, the message remains the same. The cultural pride we feel for St. Martin should be more than a 3-hour government program involving stuffy dignitaries. Not me though, I'm cool as heck. But giving speeches to each other, followed by 1 or 2 performances, and then we go about our business for the rest of the day, whether it's a holiday or not. I see constant comparison to Trinidad, Jamaica, Haiti, St. Kitts, etc. People that have been, constitutionally independent for 60 plus years, but also people who don't shut up about themselves and their culture wherever they go, rightfully so. I also want to note our constitutional status has zero to do with the pride we feel. That feeling and that passionate expression must be there en masse. It is if it's ever to work in any other status, and that I think that was the message that I wanted to convey. The same fever with which we used to organize events around St. Martin while in Miami, the same fever we do it in Rotterdam, the same fever we do it with in The Hague or New York, has to be the same fever we do it with here on the island. So I'm sorry to those who maybe felt I was condescending, but understand as well, I'm also human. And as anyone in the ministry who's actually listened to what I've been saying since taking office will tell you, I'm very straightforward about where we are as a country and the very real sacrifices needed to turn the ship around. Um, those aren't messages to deliver as if they were sweet nothings, because they're not. That's how they've been delivered so far. And I think that has created this kind of falsehood that things are okay. We've seen government say one thing in public and then turn around and say, we find the money somehow, to again have a party or another pet project with no sustainable long-term future in sight. And that has to stop at some point in time. To the open and objective minds in our community, I think the message has landed more than the tone. And I'm glad to have seen that that's the majority of the feedback that I've received. And I appreciate everybody for being very honest again with me with their feedback. The reality is, we're struggling to shore up our national identity as a country. This is something that I've said is the responsibility of every Samatana, whether you were born here or born to be here. So I'm very much looking forward to see everyone who has been so passionate about this news of a scaled back Flag Day, whether good or bad, celebrating on Flag Day, which is June 13th again. I'm looking forward to seeing the ways in which the community becomes creative to celebrate our flag. And maybe in 5 to 10 years, we will be as annoying as many of you say the Haitians and the Dominicans and the Guyanese have been. And congratulations as well to the Guyanese community on 60 years of independence for Guyana. Right now, Flag Day is typically a 2-hour government program with catering and music and children waving their flags. And quite frankly, that's not enough. Department of Culture could tell you, I have said while in Parliament, this is not enough. But this is something that we have to build together, much like we see other communities have built it together. So with that, see you on June 13th. I didn't really have much further updates. I wanted to have one on a particular law that's supposed to come to Parliament, but was not able to get that confirmation on a timeline in time. As I mentioned on the gas levy for sports, that update is going to be provided to the members of Parliament first, and then I will, of course, put it out to the general public as well. Once again, hurricane season is almost here. Check your batteries, check what you need, check your house, and make sure that you are prepared as we go into a new hurricane season. And I saw there was a question on, someone said really wanted to understand how come ECYS is not an income generating ministry. So when I say that, we make a little bit of money. Division exams make some money on certain examinations, it's been in particular naturalization, and repayment of study financing also makes some income for the ministry. But we are not a moneymaker in the sense of a TEAT or a FROMI or a finance ministry can be. That's what I mean when I say we're not really income generated. That's not the focus. This is a policy heavy ministry, in which a lot of the spending is an investment in young people that you won't see until further on down the line. So that is what I mean when I say that. We do make some coins. I want Yvette come for me and say division exams isn't making money, but it's not to the extent of millions of guilders, for example. So we are very much reliant on the general income of government, and then that money being allocated to this ministry based on what we have, put into our request. And as I've said before, the bulk of this ministry is subsidized education. On paper, the budget is 125 million guilders. 79 to 80 million guilders of that is subsidies. So that's already a big chunk gone. Then we have personnel, school busing, study financing. I've outlined it before, but as we get closer to handling budget 2026, I will outline it again on the live for you all. Maybe I'll, at that point, figure out how to do some graphics, some little background, the green screen situation for you. But yeah, so that is essentially what I mean when I say that we're not the income generating ministry. We generate some, but it's not enough to fund everything that we would like to have funded. So that's why we rely very much on the general income of government. So I hope to have answered that properly. And yeah, thank you again for tuning in. And we'll see you guys maybe next week from the Golden Rock, from Statia, Century Statia. So looking forward to seeing my colleagues over there and engaging with them as well. So thank you again. And I will definitely let you guys know if I'm going to be on next week. Probably might only be on TikTok. I'm not sure. Depends on what I manage to take over with me. But have a wonderful rest of the day, a rest of sunny day. But still mind the weather because they do say we will be getting rain on and off throughout for the rest of the weekend into the weekend. So yeah, take it easy. Have a good one.